guys, to our red Crimson Vow review. This should be a fun color because Crimson Vow is supposed to be, very vampire-oriented, so we should have some really cool cards. So let's go ahead and start with a Braid. This is a 2-mana instant. Choose one. A Braid deals 3 damage to target creature, or you can destroy an artifact. I mean, this was a reprint, I believe, from like one of the Amonkhet type sets, and it was great.
Yeah, this was an uncommon in Hour of Devastation. So yeah, the second set of the Amonkhet block. This is a very good card. It sees play all the way out to Vintage and Legacy, just because of its flexibility.
Yeah, this is, 3 damage is a little on the, not super exciting side, but all of the 3 damage removal spells are already pretty premium. So I think this is just a straight 4.
Yeah, there is so much hidden value in being able to put an effect like destroy target artifact in your deck at no cost.
I agree with that.
Especially in the best of 1 world. And when there's literally no cost, you would play 2 mana, deal 3 damage to target creature without the second half of this. You are literally just getting that bonus for.
Yes, and now I will say in this particular set, it's going to be far less valuable because we've already seen the set, and there aren't a whole lot of artifacts that we really care about. So I will say that normally I would give this a little bit more of a boost than we typically will, but I don't think it's going to come in particularly handy. Do you?
No, there's a couple rares that could be interesting. Occasionally you may have an annoying equipment you want to get rid of, but yeah, you're going to be casting this for deal 3 damage the vast majority of the time. But every once in a while, it's just kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card against an artifact that's causing you problems.
Yeah, I just think my only point was that there really just aren't
any
in this set. Yeah.
No, there's one vehicle in red we'll get to that could be pretty annoying.
That's true. Vehicles are interesting. I didn't see any of those before, so I wasn't sure. So this is just a 4, guys. Pretty easy, pretty premium removal for a common. All right. Alchemist's Gambit, a 3-mana sorcery with Cleave. Take an extra turn after this one. During that turn, damage can't be prevented at the beginning of the of that turn's end step. You lose the game, so you get 1 more turn. But if you cast it for a bajillion more for its Cleave cost, you don't lose the game. You just get an extra turn, but it costs 7, which is this is a little harder to cast. But also fine. Yeah,
I'm not playing this if I'm not playing Izzet.
Agreed.
Because I don't 3 mana, take an extra turn, you lose. It's too hard and limited to set up a reliable scenario where you can combo out or deal enough damage in that extra turn.
Now I will say I might play it if I'm possibly if we're always going to be casting it for the Cleave cost. Do you play this if you are Azorius splash red removal in this, because the splash color is only 1 red, right? So for
absolutely, this is a powerful effect if you can play this for 7.
I was just clarifying because you did say you're only playing this if you're playing Izzet.
Sorry, I guess I was thinking I was too much red focused. You're right though. If you can splash this in your primary blue deck.
Yeah, and it would go really well if you have splash this and a Braid or 2. I'm in. That said, it's an extra turn if you're in the Izzet colors or 3-color thing. We've got some sweet stuff. So what do you like this as far as a rating?
Kind of like this as a 3, given that you're only going to play it in a small number of decks. You just assume that's a given.
Yeah, another reason.
But it's tough. You could split it.
Another reason I like to give it a bit of a lower rating is because it doesn't help you if you're behind. A lot of times you're just playing this for 7 mana and drawing another card. That's basically all fair. It does.
That's a fair point.
But if you're ahead, you basically get to just, nail in the coffin just a little bit deeper, and then it's great. So it just depends. If you're at a stalemate, it's going to be amazing. If you're ahead, it's going to lock it up for you. It's really bad when you're behind. So I like a 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's kind of a cute combo that I don't know why you would ever do, but you could play that for its 3 mana cost and then flash in the blue counter guy and counter with the triggered ability.
True.
On the next turn, granted, that's still then costing you the 7 mana and actually double blue, double red. So it's actually harder to do that.
All right, guys. The next card, Alluring Suitor, 3 mana for a 2/3. When this attacks with exactly 2 creatures, transform the Suitor into a 3/3 Trampler. When this creature transforms into Deadly Dancer, add 2 red to your pool until end of turn. You don't lose mana at the end of phases. For 2 mana, Deadly Dancer, and another target creature get +1/+0 until end of turn. I mean, it's at rate and it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, 3 mana vanilla 2/3 is like probably a little bit below, but the backside is, yeah, it makes this definitely worth playing.
Yeah.
3/3 Trampler, and likely you get the red so you can activate it that turn. It's already attacked. It's in the middle of combat when it transforms, so you're at least going to be able to, at minimum, use that mana to give itself +1/+0 and the second creature that attacked with, because you have to have 2 to transform.
Yeah, so I think we know how it works. So we're looking at like, a vanilla 2/3 with like some sort of useless abilities, usually a 2. So this is definitely a 2/5. Do we think the backside is good enough to bump it up to a 3 is the question.
I think so. I think it is.
Okay. I'm kind of on the fence, but yeah, this is starting to become like the 3 drop where I'm like getting a little bit happier. It's not just filler. So yeah, we can give it a nice little boost there. Ancestral Anger, 1 mana for a sorcery. Target creature gains trample and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in your graveyard. Draw a card. So +1/+0, so it's a pump spell, and it replaces itself, and you need multiples. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Sorry, you said you're not a fan?
Mm-mm.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I broke up in my headset.
Sorry?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I'm not playing this card.
We see this sort of ability a lot in Limited, like with draw card effects. We saw something similar. It's like draw, X +1, where X is the number of these in your thing. And yeah, they're cute. They stack. But honestly, this gets good when you start to have like, 4+. And I don't want to commit 4 cards to this. I don't have to cast it 3 times for minor value.
Exactly. Yeah, it gets better in multiples, but you don't want multiples.
Yeah, so this feels like a 1/5.
Yeah. If you have to stick it in your deck as your 23rd card to cycle, then sure.
Yeah. Bastille Watcher, 4 mana for a 4/3. For 3 mana, it deals 1 damage to any target. Ooh, I like this. And then it is Daybound. At night, it turns into a 5/5 when Watcher deals 1 damage to any target. A creature dealt damage this way can't block this turn. That's cute.
Yeah, I like the fact also that when it flips sides, it's no longer a tap ability, so you can use it multiple times. It's a good card. Find rate on the front side. Pings are always nice, even if 3 mana is a lot. And then the backside's just a big, scary threat.
Yeah, this card seems great for an uncommon. I mean, I like the front side too. I would pay, even if this didn't have a backside, I would pay for this, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You play this card without the back.
I feel like the front side is already like a 3. This feels strong to me.
Yeah, I kind of want to give this a 3/5.
I also want to give this a 3/5. I think the front side alone is a 3. So
yeah, that's fair.
I'm on board for this. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I'll let you take this one.
Belligerent Guest, 2 in a red for a 3/2 vampire with trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a blood token. 3 mana 3/2 tramplers in red, something we see fairly often, and they're always playable, if not exciting. And here you figure you probably can trade off with this and probably trample through for 1 and get a blood token out of the deal.
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
I am also, it's also a vampire, which is pretty relevant.
Yep.
And we're seeing more and more blood token synergies that don't include just cycling, right? Which is to the point where we're starting to get a little happier with our blood tokens when they're doing things. So, I mean, this seems like a 2/5 to me. I like the trample is relevant, and the blood token, if you're getting multiple triggers, feels amazing. I think that's a 0.5 point bump for me.
Yeah, I like 2/5.
Awesome. All right. Blood Hypnotist is a 3-mana 3/3. It can't block. Whenever you sacrifice one or more blood tokens, target creature can't block this turn. This ability triggers only once per turn. Okay, before I read the last part, I was like, holy shit, you just like do the thing for 3 and then just kill them? Yeah, this seems fine. It's pretty aggressive. I usually like the red 3/3s for 3. What do you think, Yanks?
3-mana 3/3 is a great rate. I mean, can't block as a downside, but red decks aren't often trying to block too much with these type of creatures. The other ability's nice. I like this card. It's like probably a little better than the last one. Not sure if it's enough to make it a 3, but it's in that area.
Yeah, I think it's a 2/5 personally.
Yeah, I think it's a 2/5, but I said like even within 2/5, right? There's a range, so I do like this better than the previous card.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think they go well together. They're both very similar to me. Blood Petal Celebrant, a 2-mana 2/1 vampire. It has first strike as long as it's attacking, and when it dies, create a blood token. Seems fine.
Yeah. Yeah, first strikers are difficult to deal with in combat. Getting a little something when it dies is just a fairly solid 2-drop.
Yep. Now, is this good enough to give us that 0.5 bump to a 2.5?
I think I have this as a 2, but it's close.
I agree. The vampire, the blood token, those are all really nice bonuses. It's going to depend, I think, how much synergy you have. If this is just like in a generic green-red deck, it's probably just a 2. If it's in the green-black vampires, it's probably going to be a nice payoff.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Bloody Betrayal, 3 mana for the gain control of target creature until end of turn. Create a blood token. We see this. They're starting to give you that little, incidental bonus now. These are only playable if you have good sack outlets in a format, and that's not typical. I'm always hesitant to rate them poorly because usually these are just like 1.5s across the board. But the D&D set kind of traumatized me, and I'm never like sure if this is any good. But we did do black already, and there was like not a ton, right?
No, there wasn't a lot.
So this feels like a 1.5 to me.
Yeah, and you're right on the AFR, how good that deck was, but if I'm wrong on this card, 1 out of every 10 sets, I'll live with it.
Agreed. That said, I'll use this as a 23rd playable card as a top end in the most aggressive decks, because sometimes you just need to remove a blocker and get in an extra 3 damage, and that's good enough. So, like, it's not something I'm playing often, but it's something that you should be okay to play if you have a little room. Also, the exploit is pretty key here. Someone mentioned you could steal something to exploit it, so...
you can. The only downside compared to like AFR is exploit's expensive. There aren't a lot of cheap exploit cards.
Agreed. So you have to pay 3 plus the 4 to 5 or whatever the exploit costs.
Yeah, at least the ones that you're going to want to play.
All right, Cemetery Gatekeeper, which we see the Cemetery cycle. It's a 2-mana 2/1 vampire with first strike. When it enters the battlefield, exile a card, as they all do. Whenever a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, it deals 2 damage to that player. So this feels like the ability is more constructed to me. Because what you want to do is you kind of want to tailor this to whatever your opponent is trying to do more than you are. So if you're a creature-heavy deck, you grab their spells or vice versa. That said, it's still a 2/1 first striker for 2, so it's being played, but just be careful. You don't want to accidentally shock yourself to death.
Yeah, this feels like it's something that's trying to make its way into like a modern burn deck to compete with like Eidolon of the Great Reveal. But limited, 2/1 first striker, exiling a card from graveyard's relevant. Just to get rid of a disturb card. It's like as like a 2/5.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like I said, I feel like it's going to be very strong and constructed, but another cool thing too about this though is even if, let's say you are going to shock yourself to death or whatever, if you're in the hyper aggressive deck, maybe it doesn't matter. We've seen this before, even in constructed, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to shock for 2, but I'm also going to get way far ahead of you in the first 4 turns, and then you're not going to be able to cast any spells, and I will still have like a little bit of extra life to have some room to cast things. So if you're in the hyper-aggressive deck, it's probably a much bigger payoff.
Yeah, definitely this is a card that wants to be deck.
All right, Chandra, Dressed to Kill. It's kind of interesting that the flames go over the text there, because if you do, if you have an alter and you alter over the text of the name, it's like illegal. But they printed a card like that, which is interesting.
That is interesting. But yeah, Chandra, Dressed to Kill, 3-mana legendary planeswalker. Chandra comes in with 3 loyalty. +1 is add red. Chandra, Dressed to Kill deals 1 damage to up to 1 target player or planeswalker. The other +1, exile the top card of your library. If it's red, you can cast it this turn. And the ultimate -7, exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may cast red spells from among them this turn. You get an emblem whenever you cast a red spell, the emblem deals X damage to any target, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast the spell.
Okay. That's a lot of words on there, -7, but -7s are not usually terribly relevant in Limited. I feel like if you get that high, you've already killed them.
Yeah, I like this planeswalker way worse than Sorin we saw in black.
I agree.
Now, it is 3 mana, so it's cheap. It's not going to be threatened right away if you play it on curve too much just because it's so cheap, but it doesn't really doesn't protect itself at all.
No.
And the +1 ability is just worse than some of the zeros or other Chandra abilities in the past, because you can only play the red spells with it.
Yeah, the +1 actually for the card advantage is pretty meh to me. Not being able to cast half your deck feels awful.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't hit lands. It doesn't say play.
Yep. Yeah, you're probably looking at like a third of your deck that you can hit with this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not in love with it. Now, if you could just keep plussing it all day and getting free mana and dealing a damage, it's fine, but it's not winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, they still need to deal with this card. The emblem will eventually kill them. So they do need to prevent it from ultimating, but yeah, that's a 5 turns just to get that off.
Yeah, definitely a strange one. That said, it's still a planeswalker. I'm hesitant to rate it too poorly, but I don't think this is great.
No, I kind of want to just give this like a 3.
I agree. I mean, if you're ahead on curve and you're getting to ping every turn, it's kind of fine, but like then your other cards are already winning you the game anyway, so I think it's irrelevant. I like it at a 3. We're probably not cutting this, but I'm not over the moon about it either. Change of Fortune, discard your hand, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. Constructed mostly. It works with like bloods and stuff you could activate, but that's very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario on this card realistically is like you play this on like turn 7 or 8 with a couple extra lands in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so you activate a couple blood tokens, discard 2 cards to blood tokens, play this, and discard 3 cards, and you get to draw 5. But that's a lot of work. You got to get the blood tokens. You've got to have the dead cards you want to get rid of. Like, this feels like a fun casual card more so than anything we're ever going to play in Limited.
I agree. This is just like a 1 to me.
Yeah.
There's got to be better ways to draw cards, even in red.
Yes.
Freebie Puppeteer, a 4/3 for 4 mana with haste. When it attacks, if it attacks with exactly 1 other creature this combat, you may have that creature's base power and toughness become 3 or 4/3 until end of turn. I mean, a 3/4 with haste for 4 is fine-ish. It's pretty easy to cast, so it's being played. I don't think we're cutting this card, but I'm also not like... It's really cool in the super aggressive decks, right? So if you curve out and you're playing this on 4, boom, you are in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's an odd card. Stats are fine, like you said, but not exciting. So it just feels just mediocre, like especially for a rare. Not cutting it, but not anything to be slamming first pick or being excited about.
I definitely agree with that. It's just, it feels like the perfect 4-drop in the aggressive deck. But again, it's not like a home run in any means, and it's kind of a not good late draw. So it's fine. It's a 3, a 3/5 in the aggro deck.
Yeah, I've got it as a 3.
It'll find a really good deck in, or a good home in the white-red aggro nonsense. I'll let you take this one.
Curse of Hospitality. 2 in a red for an enchantment or a curse. Enchant player. Creatures attacking enchanted player have trample. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to enchanted player, that player exiles the top card of their library. Until end of turn, that creature's controller may play that card, and they may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. So you play this on your opponent. All your creatures, when they attack them, have trample, and when they trample over or deal damage to them, you get to exile their cards and cast them until the end of that turn.
I like exiling their cards because there's no downside. Like, you're not accidentally milling yourself. Worst case scenario, you're accidentally milling them. If you're like pecking away at them with some small stuff. This feels fine.
Yeah, I actually like this card a lot in exactly that aggressive deck you're talking about, because it's a way to sort of refill that deck's hand.
Yeah. Or even not in the hyper aggressive decks, but even the like taller, more werewolfy decks will get some good value out of this.
Yeah, agreed, because they're more likely correct to get the trample damage through.
And, sometimes it's like, this is 6 mana, do nothing until I can activate it. But this is only 3 mana. It's not a huge commitment. I mean, it is a card commitment, but if you can get 1 card back reasonably reliable, we're pretty happy. And also you can wait to cast it until pre-combat when you know you're going to get the value out of it, and then it feels great. This feels like a 3/5. I like it.
Yeah, this is a 3/5.
All right. Daybreak Combatants. It's a 3 mana 2/2 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So it's a slightly expensive hasting bear that does a pump. Kind of nice in the aggro decks. Human warrior, relevant creature type. One deck wants this, but the average deck is not particularly happy, right?
Yeah, I think this is probably just a 2. The red decks are probably going to skew more aggressive on average, so people will want this card, but at the back end of your deck, not anything. You want it highly.
All right, let's go ahead and give it a 2. We're going to take a quick break here. Dominating Vampires, 3 mana 3/3 vampire with relevant creature type. And when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature with mana value less or equal to the number of vampires you control until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. Okay, so this is a built-in steal, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3 mana 3/3 with just a free steal effect. Now, it's restrictive, right? About by itself, it can only grab a 1-drop, so you do need other vampires. But even if you don't have them, you're still getting an on-rate card.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a 3/3 for 3 relevant creature type is above rate. Granted, it's 2 red pips, which kind of balances out a bit, but that's fine. I think we're okay. I think this is a 3, and in the vampire deck, it's probably more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome. All right, end the festivities, a 1 mana sorcery, and the festivities deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Each opponent and each creature they control. Okay, so this is sideboard.
Yeah.
I think it's going to kill some stuff, some tokens and things. Just a 1 though. I don't think we're putting this in the main deck.
Nope. It's one and a 1 mana sideboard.
All right. Falconwrath Celebrants, a 5 mana 4/4 with Menace. When Falconwrath Celebrants enters the battlefield, create 2 blood tokens. Okay, I like 5 mana 4/4s that do a thing, and Menace is not a sucky keyword, right?
No, it's a good one. 2 blood tokens are very nice. Nice little value there. It's like, just a couple little pieces of value to go onto a reasonable body.
Definitely. I think this is a 3. It's starting to get to the point where I'm happy to fill my curve with this as a reasonable 5-drop.
Yeah, I think I'm a little lower on it. I think I'm like at a 2-5 just because 5-drop slots usually a pretty premium.
That's true.
But it depends. If you're in that like red aggressive deck like we're talking about, you usually don't have many 5-drops. So in that case, yeah, this is something you would want there.
I think that's definitely a good thing to point out, is that if your 5-drop slot is full, like this is something easily cuttable. But I feel like those three, the 5-drop slot is a thing where I find myself cutting 3 rated cards all the time, just because you only want 3. They're pretty easy to pick up. So it's not a slot that is going to need to be filled.
Yeah.
Fearful Villager, a 3-mana 2/3 human werewolf with Menace and Daybound. At night, it turns into a 4/3 Menacer. Yeah, I like Menace 2/3s for 3. This one flips and gets a little stronger, which I like. This seems good.
Yeah. Pretty basic werewolf. Fine on the front side, good on the back. Fine with this card.
Yeah. Is this a 3? I feel like it's a little bit below rate for what we saw like with the Devil in the last set, right? It was a 2/3 for 3 with Menace that pinged when it turned night and day. But instead of ping, we get a bigger body, which I'm okay with. It's also Werewolf, which could be relevant. So I think, I'm getting pretty close to putting this as a 3 in the like aggressive werewolf deck.
Yeah, I think I have it as a 2-5, and that might just be me being scarred from how terrible werewolves were in the last set.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I feel like when we're starting to do these set reviews now, we've had such crazy swingy and kind of unbalanced sets that, you know, the PTSD in the rating system is starting to show. We're just being honest.
Yeah, and it's going to have the most impact on these just like cards that look solid, that don't do anything flashy, but when their decks are bad, they're just not useful.
Agreed. All right. Flame Blessed Bolt, 1 mana for a instant speed spell. Deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die, exile it instead. So this is, again, just another shock plus. Oh, it says creature or planeswalker. So
yeah.
Not quite a shock plus, but also does a little bit better stuff. It's going to kill some of those disturbed cards and be pretty cute. We're definitely running this.
Yeah, you're exchanging the ability to go face for exile.
Which, yeah, will be useful. So, I mean, this is a 3 for me.
Yeah, we got it as a 3. We'll see what the format plays out. There are some formats, you know, shock is very format dependent. Some formats it's amazing. Some formats it's just so.
All right, Frenzied Devils. We have a 5 mana Devil. It's a 3/3 with haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Frenzied Devil gets +2/+2 till end of turn. That seems kind of sweet.
Yeah.
It's not a home run, but like that is going to be some tough combat to play around.
It is. It's interesting that we didn't see like this sort of effect in, or anything that would lead me to believe that blue-red is like this type of deck. Other than it just blue having a lot of spells like it always does.
Yeah, it doesn't actually feel like that's going to be a built-in archetype. Although there is some sort of, is it Drake, which I don't think I read, but maybe that's a thing.
Very well could be. That is usually what those Is it Drakes are.
Yep.
Take a gander at it.
But even still, even just in like the incidental, you know, stuff in red and burn and whatever, white pump spells, this still feels good to me.
Yeah, this is definitely deck dependent. Like, you're not going to want this in red-green, really, for example. You're going to have other options for big bodies at expensive mana cost from green, and tend not to have as many spells. But the other red decks, I could definitely see wanting this card.
I agree with that. Okay. What do you think for score?
I still think I have that at like a 2-5. I'm going to play it, but I'm looking for better 5-drops if I can find them.
I agree with that. I'm on the fence between a 2-5 and a 3, and I think the difference is just whether or not you have the burn.
Yeah.
All right. We have a vehicle, 3 mana for a 5/5 Trampler. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. this becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So the crew is just 2 creatures instead of a power, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think this is our first vehicle without an actual crew cost on
Yeah.
it.
So this is going to reward you for the smaller, wider decks. But yeah, I think this is kind of interesting. The art's really pretty.
Yeah. This is large for not a lot of mana. I think this card is going to be pretty scary in this format.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be deck dependent upon how many creatures. If you're running the 10 creature deck, this gets a lot less scary. But if you're running the make token poop out stuff deck, then we're happy. I feel like this is a 3 in the average deck.
Yeah, I think that's right. What I do like about it is that it's cheap, so you can stick it in like a 16 land aggro deck with a bunch of creatures, and then it can help break through the big walls that those creatures can't get.
Yeah, I like that. I agree as well. All right. Hungry Ridge Wolf. It is a 2/2 for 2. As long as you control another wolf or werewolf, Hungry Ridge Wolf gets +1/+0 and has trample. That's some nice upside.
Yeah, there's plenty of werewolves in the set. We'll see in green how many wolves there are to go along with the red ones, but I imagine there'll be a few. Bear with, it can pretty easily play this on 2, and on turn 3 you've got a 3/2 trampler.
Yep.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I'm up to give this a 2.5, give it that nice half-point bump.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Illtempered Loner, a 4-mana 3/3 human werewolf. Whenever Illtempered Loner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. For 2 mana, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and then at night, whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, this deals that much damage to any target, and then it also can be pumped for the same. It's a 4/4. So it's a 3/3 for 4 and a 4/4 for 4. This makes attacking really weird.
Well, you just cannot get into combat with anything when this card's on its backside. If you're the opponent.
Yeah.
If you can attack with 2 things and they have to block them, they really can't, because they're just going to end up taking, either those things are going to die or they're going to take the damage to the face on the trigger anyway.
Yeah, any target. This card's nuts.
Yeah. The front side's good too. A little expensive at 4 mana 3/3, but the ability, the activated ability is nice, and if it dies in some way that's not a a destroy or exile type effect, it's gonna probably take a second card out with it, or at least deal some damage, to 3 or 4 damage to your opponent.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I feel like this card is a 4. It's going to win the game if you've got creatures on the board, but it is easily answerable. So it's not quite what I like to see for my 4/5s and my 5s, but this is a bomb. Let's not kid ourselves. All right, Into the Night, a 4-mana sorcery. It becomes night, discard any number of cards, then draw that many +1. Okay, so I mean, in the werewolf deck, this is probably the only thing where we're going to want that, because it gives you a guaranteed spot to make it night, and it replaces itself, which helps you continue to make it night and do things.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have some really powerful werewolves to play this card.
So I'll play a 4-mana, or usually a 3-mana, discard a card, draw 2. So this just gives you the night effect. You discard 1 land, draw 2. So it's kind of the same effect. You're paying that 1 extra mana for the night ability, right?
Yeah, I mean, I usually find those things as my 23rd, 24th cards.
I agree.
And sometimes they're instant.
That's true. But also, how relevant is night in your deck? That's what I'm advocating for. And I'm not saying this is a good card, but I'm saying it is a 23rd playable card in that wolf thing.
Yes, yeah, it's a borderline playable card in that deck alone.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I think I'm giving it a 1/5, and I'll play it in that one deck, and that's it.
I've actually been, in the last set, I was pretty impressed with how relevant day-night was.
Yes, I think part of those 50% of the time this card does literal nothing, right? Or that part is irrelevant because it's already night, or 30% of the time, whatever the percentage is that it's nighttime.
Definitely, I agree with that. But so it's kind of like twofold, right? It is that extra pitch lands redraw when you need it. It gives you night when you need it. So it's a little bit more flexible. I like cards that have dual purposes.
Yeah.
All right, Kessig Flame. Flame Breather, 2 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of your spells payoffs that you like to see. It's definitely not built for your crazy red aggro decks with the stats and a 1/3, but that's fine. That's exactly what like a red blue spells deck would want, a blocker early.
Yep, and we
that
see
also deals some damage.
We see this kind of ability quite often, and usually, even though it is kind of a spells thing, honestly, it's not usually great. If I'm, not mistaken here, it's pretty medium. Like we saw the exact same sort of ability whenever you roll a dice, do the thing. Now, you might say, well, this is wider because not every spell had die rolls, but creatures had die rolls. So I feel like it's like kind of a wash, and that was something we cut a lot. Feels like a 2 to me.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. It's a card that can, in the right deck, get pretty scary in multiples, though.
Definitely agree with that. All right, Kessig Wolf Rider. This is sort of an interesting card. I didn't really know what to think of this because it wants things in the graveyard, but there wasn't really a good color pairing with red that actively put things in the graveyard. I mean, there's the Wolf deck, right? Green cards were putting stuff in the graveyard pretty consistently with the Farmer and things. So I'm interested to see, I didn't typically want to play those in the Wolf deck because there was plenty of 3-drop Wolves. That said, this is just a, little aggro menacer, which is cute. And then if left alone, it's going to produce a fair amount of 3/2s over time. You just won't necessarily have synergies to make that happen.
Yeah, this weird is definitely a good way to describe this card. It's like you're saying, I'm not seeing the deck that really wants this.
Agreed. I mean, that said, I'm still probably playing it just because it's an okay minus early draw. It's a relevant creature type, and if you draw this on turn 9, you're just going to get to play it and make 2 3/2s. Maybe over 2 turns, but that's okay. I feel like it's good value.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to not play this card, but I think this is like a 2 to 2/5.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might be a little higher on it just because I think that the Wolf synergy is going to be super good. And if you don't have any reason to keep cards in your graveyard, because late game, there's 9 cards in there. Some good value. I'm in the 2/5 to 3 range. Not a rare to get excited about.
Yeah.
Lacerate Flesh for 5 mana for a sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature. Create a number of blood tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to the creature. So you get a little bit of a bonus if the creature is tiny.
This is, let's just preface this by saying I'm probably going to play this card because it's removal and it's not terrible, but this is a much worse 5 mana removal spell in red than we've seen recently.
Yes, it's sorcery speed, which is gross. And I don't really want to be paying 5 mana to kill something small.
Yeah, you're going to be you're either getting nothing out of the blood token or you're massively trading down on mana with the cards you're killing. Again, 5 mana 4 damage, I'll play it. I'm just not going to be very happy about it as opposed to some of the 5.
Another thing is we typically see 5 mana damage spells do 5 damage.
Yeah.
And often at instant speed. So, this to me is a 3. It's going to get played, but I'm not over the moon about it by any means.
Yeah, I actually I think I want to give it a 2/5. I think it's obviously different, but I think it's just enough worse than, Flame Blast Bolt Shock that I would put it underneath that. Lamholt Raconteur. 3 in a red for a 2/4 human werewolf. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this deals 1 damage to each opponent. And on the flip, with Daybound, and on the flip side, it's Lamholt Ravager, which is a 4/4. It has whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you deal 2 damage to each opponent.
I mean, that's a fair amount of ping.
It is. The front side of this card, I would say, is probably just not playable on its own. It's just too bad of a rate, I would argue, at 4 mana for 4. But the fact that it becomes a 4/4 and doubles the ping is pretty nice.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, again, the front side is not super exciting, but it does say non-creature spell, which makes like your disturb cards good. It makes like enchantments and it pumps spells. It's not just instants and sorceries like it typically is, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think I've got this at like a 2/5.
Yeah, I'm on the fence between a 2/5 and a 3. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend very much upon how many times you think you could trigger this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this well enough. I will say it's also later in the game. It's easier to keep it night because your opponent, like you're on top deck mode, so you like don't usually have 2 spells to turn it back, and you can turn it into night a lot easier anytime you want, typically. So I like that about it.
Sure.
Wow, this is freaking adorable. Lightning Wolf, 4 mana. Wolf, 4/3. For 2 mana, Lightning Wolf gains first strike until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Ugh. Sorcery speed is kind of sad. But, I mean, it's still fine.
Yeah. 4 mana, 4/3 is meh stats. I don't really like that ability. Although, if you can... It's hard to deal with as a first striker, but I just feel like so many times you're going to activate this to attack, and then it's just going to get killed. Then you've just wasted that.
Yeah, but you might have the mana sometimes, so it's nice.
Yeah.
I think this is like a 2/5. It's a relevant creature type as well.
Yep, 2/5 is where I've got it. Plus, it's fluffy.
Right? We have a big X spell. Jiminy Christmas. For X red, you have an elemental. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to this creature while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. When 1 or more counters are removed this way, it deals that much damage to any target. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, so like an average case for this, right? This is like a 4/4, say.
Okay.
So it's a 4/4 that whenever it takes damage, it shrinks by that amount and shoots anything for it. So if you want to kill it, you need to basically, if you're going to trade with your own 4-power creature, you're trading with it, and then it still gets to deal 4 to something else. That seems really good.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is, a reasonable thing to cast on 4+, right? If it's a 2/2 that trades with something and then kills something else, whatever, we're fine. It's going to make combat really tricky. It's like, okay, if mine's a 5/5, they can block it and we can kill just about anything. Like, that's tough. This is an interesting card. I feel like it's going to make your opponent's life very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there's answers to it, of course. There's minus effects, there's destroy or exile, but it's an uncommon. They're gonna have to deal with those things. Are gonna deal with it all the time. This is most of the time going to be a 2-for-1.
I also want to just say that, like, it could be reach, right? Like, if their answer to kill your creature is by blocking it and they're at 3 damage, they're going to die.
Yeah.
Any target is pretty relevant in this situation. I like this. This is like a 3/5 to me.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we got a Hellkite, 4 mana, 4/4 flyer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of the mana spent on that spell. Exile a token at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, so it just hits 1 time. That's still good.
Yeah.
And it's still a 4 mana, 4/4 flyer, which I would think was good even if it had no other text.
Yeah, I feel like we've been spoiled by some of these red mythic, 4 mana, 5 mana dragons that they're just so incredibly game breaking. Where you see one that's just merely great, and it looks almost a little disappointing. But it's not. It's a great card.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I think it's a 4/5. It can win the game. It's going to depend on how many spells you have, obviously, how game-breaking it is. But there's also a good chance you just play this, it gets removed, and then we call it a day.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and Markov Retribution. 3 mana, sorcery speed. Choose one or both. Creatures you control get +1/+0. Vampires you control... Target vampire you control deals damage equal to its power to another crew. What? A red punch spell? Okay.
Yeah.
A mini trumpet blast and a punch spell. I'm in for it. I like it.
Yeah, I don't particularly like this card. I don't think it's unplayable. And you're certainly going to play it in any vampire deck, no question. But that first effect just isn't enough to me at sorcery speed.
I remember saying it was sorcery, but I kind of like forgot. Yeah, we're definitely not playing this without vampires. Like, Trumpet Blast was borderline not playable in a lot of formats, which is just better. So, like, you have to have the flexibility to do both of these things. The punch side is what makes me actually excited. But it is still at a sorcery speed, so even then it's, like, not amazing. So, I mean, I think this is a 2, but I'm
yeah, I think that's fine.
Gonna play it. All right, Olivia's Attendance, a 6 mana 6/6 with Menace. When Olivia's Attendance deals damage, and it deals damage, create that many blood tokens. That's a lot of blood tokens.
Yeah, and it deals damage. It's not deals combat damage, and it's not deals damage to a player. It's any damage.
Mm-hmm. Shouldn't this have triple Menace because there's 3 of them? We saw that once, right? In Ikoria?
Yes, yeah, it can be blocked by, or needed 3 blockers, yeah.
I like this card. It doesn't seem like a house, though. This is like a 3/5?
I think this card might be a little better, just that last ability, being able to ping anything.
There's another ability? I stopped
3
reading
mana,
after blood tokens.
Yeah, 3 mana, ping something, create a blood token, right? Because you're dealing damage.
All right, it's a 4, fine. I stopped reading after create blood tokens. So the other ability just kind of faded into the flavor text of blood tokens, and I just like stopped reading.
Yeah.
All right, well, have a 4. Honestly, ping any target just gives you reach, gives you so many blood tokens. This might be a 4/5.
And this is a 6-drop, so the next turn you will untap with at least enough mana to ping something twice and kill an X2.
Yep. Yeah, this is possibly a 4/5.
Yeah.
This is pretty game breaking if if they can't kill this. All right.
Yeah, it takes 1 turn basically to untap and probably kill something and make 2 bloods.
Yep.
Even before attacking.
Or if they don't have an X2, you just ping them for 2.
Yeah.
And still make the bloods and still get the value and get the extra reach. Pyrospawn, 6 mana for a 6/4. When Pyrospawn dies, it deals 3 damage to any target. A lot of any target abilities here.
I like this card. I mean, it pales in comparison to our last 6-drop, but normally what I would like about this card, right, is the 4 and its toughness for 6 mana. That you're going to trade with the 4/4. But if you're going to trade with the 4/4 and kill an X3 on the trigger, I'm fine with that.
I agree. That does seem quite relevant. It's an elemental, so it's not quite as relevant creature type wise, but nope. I think this is fine.
Yeah. It's like a 3.
I also have it at a 3. 6 drops are limited space in your deck, so you can't have too many, but sometimes there just aren't that many, so it's just fine.
Agreed.
All right, guys, moving right along. Reckless Impulse, 2 mana for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of turn. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Okay. I like this.
Yeah, you can play them, so you can get lands.
Kind of like a light up the stage.
Yeah, it's an
for a medium rate. It's not 3, but it's not
exactly.
1.
Yep.
And light up the stage
is
average. Great. Yeah.
It seems like a pretty good card. It's red card draw. What passes for red card draw, and it's cheap and Yeah, I don't see the downside of this card. It's going to matter for your. It's great for your spells decks.
Yep, I like it at a 3.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Rendering Flame, guys. 3 mana for an instant. Rendering Flame deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that permanent is a spirit, Radiant Flame also deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. So you get a little bonus under the idea, I think, that they are going to get a card back kind of thing. This seems great.
Yeah, I was just waiting to see if you came up with a different way to say the name of this card.
I don't know. What did I say?
Rendering and Radiant Flame.
Whatever.
Neither which is correct.
Listen, Yanks, okay? I just got the bidding picture over here on the other thing that I'm looking at. All right.
No, this card's very good. We saw 5 mana sorcery speed deal 4, and here we get 3 mana instant speed deal 5.
Yeah, it's an uncommon.
And sometimes also deal 2. Yeah, like, this card's great.
Yeah. Premium removal, we're going to give it a 4. Yeah. You read the next card.
Next up, we've got Runebound Wolf. 1 in a red for a 2/2 wolf. Pay 3 in a red and tap it. It deals damage equal to the number of wolves and werewolves you control to target opponent. Again, bear with upside, relevant creature text, or relevant creature type. Excuse me. Ability's not particularly good.
I actually like it.
But it's a mana sink, and it's a little bit of reach.
I think that's really good reach.
Yeah, that's a lot of mana to need help to deal 2 to your opponent.
I mean, I agree, but like the red decks oftentimes have problems finishing out red decks, aggressive decks tend to have trouble finishing the job. So like, it's not necessarily the most mana efficient thing, but that's not something red typically has access to. I feel like this is going to be a siege zombie type situation where this is going to be better than you expect.
It may be better than I expect. There are going to be far fewer wolves than there were zombies running around. Because you don't have an infinite supply of tokens like you did pretty much in the Black Deck's last format.
Yeah, but I can still
this costs a lot of mana to activate, whereas Siege Zombie costs no mana.
I agree. I just meant that like you're undervaluing a 2/2 for 2 that has some late game bonus. I just think that this is going to be a lot more reach than I would typically see on a random 2-drop with a relevant creature type. I like it at a 2/5. I think that's definitely enough for me to give it the half-point bump.
Yeah, I think I'm probably closer to it too, but 2/5. If you have the wolves, then this card is definitely worth playing.
Yeah, I think if you have no wolves, then it's just a bear with no text, right? Yeah. We have an artifact with a lot of text. Enters the battlefield, create a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you may have this become a 3/3 vampire creature with haste until end of turn.
Yeah, this is pretty terrible.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this.
I mean, it's nice that you can get in for 3 the turn it comes out. Like if you play this on 3, play it, sack the blood token because it has haste. But besides that, it just doesn't really do a lot. Like a 3/3, it doesn't have evasion. It's not that threatening.
Yeah, I think this is. I mean, it sort of feels like the stuffed bear from the last set. Like nothing exciting. It's probably going to see some play, but I don't think that's a good thing. It's a 25th playable card if you don't happen to have a 23rd, 24th playable card.
Agreed, yeah.
All right. The Uprising is a 4-mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 human creature token. If you control exactly 13 permanents, you may sacrifice this. When you do, it deals 7 damage to any target. Okay, I mean, I actually don't hate it. it could just be pumping out a 1/1 every turn forever, which is going to be great for Extort. It's going to be great for Go Wides. And eventually, like, you might choose to just kill them with it. Possibly. 7 damage is a lot, but I think even if we don't say you're ever going to get 13 permanents, you could just say you're going to get a 1/1 forever.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd play 4 mana, get a 1/1 every turn.
I think I would. Not, not through the roof about it, but I think this is probably getting played.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad card. I think because of the ability to eventually deal some damage, and while 13 seems like a lot, you get enough lands out of the battlefield that.
Yeah, late game, honestly, it's not that many permanents.
And you've got these tokens, and Red's making blood tokens with permanents as well, so.
Yeah, it just turns, it's a 1/1 forever that's going to, I think, pretty reasonably turn into a big burn spell.
Yeah, it feels like the two parts of it go in like different decks almost. Because you got you want like a flood of creatures in an aggressive deck, but aggressive deck you're going to be trading things off and keeping it below 13.
But you're still playing a land, you're still doing stuff, and like maybe this is what keeps you from keeps your opponent from stabilizing, or gives you the reach. Once they stabilize, you're like, okay, I guess I can't attack anymore. I'll just sit here for 2 extra turns, play a land, make a dude, and then shoot you in the face for 7. It's a good percentage of a life total. I'm playing this.
It feels really dirtily for Red.
You're really dirtily.
Yeah, that's why I play blue.
2/5. I'm giving it a 2/5. Sure Strike! I love Sure Strikes. I'm gonna play it.
At least it's not Run Amok.
I'm gonna play it. Shut up. You're the worst. I'm giving it a 2. It's easily cuttable, but I'm playing these.
I think this card's fine. I think this card is infinitely better than Run Amok, for example. You can actually use it on defense.
Listen, all right. We're not friends. It's just as simple as that.
No, that wasn't that hard.
All right. Vampire's Vengeance, a 3 mana instant speed. Vampire Vengeance deals 2 damage to each non-vampire creature. Create a blood token. I feel like this is main deckable no matter how many vampires you have. 2 damage for 3 is kind of fine. It's at instant speed, so you can do it after trades and weird things. You make a blood, so you get a little card back. But the upside, if you have the vampire deck, seems great.
Yeah, I think ideally I'm playing this in my sideboard, not my main deck, but it's not terrible to play it.
The fact that it's instant makes me happier in the main. I agree it's still preferable to be in the side, but at instant speed means you can do it with these weird block situations when you're pretty happy.
Yeah, that does allow you to create some scenarios where it helps. I just need to see how this format plays out, see how many things end up just sitting on the battlefield at X3 or greater, where you have to do a lot of work to make this good. I'm not opposed to playing this.
That said, I mean, I don't think it's like amazing, but I don't think I'm cutting one of these. So I'm in the realm of like a 3, but I'm also happy to have more in my sideboard. Maybe it's like a 2/5 sideboard card.
Yeah, I think I'm at like a 2 on this, where I almost want to say 2/5 because I'm not upset playing this card, but I'm actively looking to find a way to put this in my sideboard instead of my deck.
Okay, yeah, so we're about a point off. I'm in the 2. I also gave it a 2/5, but I lean towards the 3. So, yeah. All right. The Arsonist is a 5 mana 4/4 with haste and menace. When it attacks, it deals 1 damage to each of up to 1 target creature, 1 target player, and 1 target planeswalker during the day. And at night, it's a 5/5 that does the same thing, but for 2 damage, double the value. This card's great.
Yeah. The fact that, unlike old school werewolves, the new ones can sometimes just come in on their Nightbound side and immediately shock a couple things when it attacks. 5/5 menace haste. Yeah, this card's really good.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I'm going to give it a 4/5.
Yep.
I'm right there with you. Well, Darren, 1 mana, 1/1 vampire. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Create a blood. I don't like that it doesn't do anything else. We can't pump it. We can't.
This feels like it should have been in the last set. Like it should have been triggering those when if your opponent lost life this turn cards.
Agreed, actually. But it also makes a blood token, which is what it does in this set, so that's fine. Yeah. So I think that you're wanting this if you're wanting early blood tokens and relevant, vampire card types. But for the most part, I think it's a little too not impactful. Now that said, 1-drops that create 2 things on the board always tend to surprise us. Anytime you make a clue, anytime you make a crabby thing, whatever. Like anytime you get to make a thing, we like that. But again, I don't think this one's quite as impactful as I would like to see. It's probably a 1/5.
Yeah, I agree. It's a 1/5. And one thing I'm becoming kind of surprised by, because now we're nearing the end of Red, there are actually very few things that care about vampires. There's only a couple.
Yeah.
Outside of, mythics. that is not quite as supported as I would have expected it to be in this set.
All right. Let's go ahead and Yanks will have you take this one.
Voltaic Visionary. This is a 3/1 human wizard for 1 and a red. When you can tap it to deal 2 damage to you, so shock yourself, and you can exile the top card of your library, and then you can play that card this turn, activate only as a sorcery. When you play a card exiled with Voltaic Visionary, transform it, and then it becomes Volt Charged Berserker, which is a 4/3 that can't block.
It's interesting.
This card. It's not bad. 2 mana 3/1 on its own.
No.
With a little bit of upside is fine. But and you do get to play lands, which makes a big deal on this. But a 4/3 that can't block is not a huge payoff either.
Not a huge payoff, but the idea that it has replaced itself. It was an aggressive 2-drop on its own, so you beat them while you can. When you can't anymore, you redraw your card, and then you turn it into a 4/3 is a reasonable size threat for the equivalent of 2 mana.
Yeah, I mean, this is at a cost of at least cost you 2 life. If not more, if you had to try it a couple times.
But win in Magic has 2 life penalty ever not been fine.
It is a fine penalty. It's just that's why I'm saying it's don't love the upside or the for the cost. The reward doesn't really seem that good. Again, I'm playing the card. It's 2 mana 3/1.
Yeah,
which Red wants to be aggressive.
Fine on its own. Yeah, I think this card is good. The fact that it replaces itself makes me happy. So, what do you like it score wise? I'm guessing you're in the 2/5 range. I'm closer to the 3.
Yeah, I have a 2/5.
All right, last red card, guys. We have a Weary Prisoner for 4 mana, a 2/6 defender with Daybound. At night, it becomes Wrathful Jailbreaker, which is attacks each combat if aimable, and it is a 6/6. Okay, so you get a little bit of a discount. You got some booty. This card is okay. It's a werewolf. Play it in your werewolf decks. I don't think it's anything to get too excited about.
No, I've got this at a 2/5.
I also have it at 2/5. That sounds about right for me as well. All right, guys, that is the end of our red section. For those of you guys who are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the red cards. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video for the green cards. Thanks again, Yanks, for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.